30 kilowatts of impressive output power, and that's with only 50% available sunlight, thanks to a maximum possible 60 kilowatt peak that we can conveniently connect to this advanced device today, the brand new Solax X3 Ultra, which is readily available in my online shop. What it can do, who it's interesting for, and how we install it. That's exactly what today's episode is about. So a warm welcome back to my English YouTube channel. As you can clearly see, I'm not in my living room or office today, but here in my home gym, and mounting that heavy unit on the wall was definitely more than just a warm-up for my daily workout. It really put my strength to the test. The device I had delivered to present to you definitely weighs about 15 kilos more than the Solax X3 hybrid inverter that we all know by now. And I definitely needed both of my hands to carefully hang it up. The specific device you see here, namely the Solax X3 Ultra with a substantial 30 kilowatt output, is not connected in this particular case. But in the meantime, I have already installed the Solax X3 Ultra many times, also in combination with the new stackable battery, the so-called Solax 3.6. And I can only tell you one truly significant thing. The Ultra, in perfect combination with this particular battery, as well as with the D58 battery, which is also absolutely and remarkably suitable for this specific device, genuinely and completely outperforms everything I have personally seen so far on this entire planet when it comes to advanced hybrid inverters. At this point, all other manufacturers really need to brace themselves. And anyone who needs an inverter of this size and doesn't get this one, there's really nothing more that can be done for them. Especially because by now, I really know my way around it. At least as well as with the Solax X3 G4, and you can really ask me anything about this device. I will be able to give you an answer to it. In the past few days or weeks, I've really spent hours exchanging information with my colleagues in China about this device. But mainly because there were a few things that weren't completely clear to me. There were some things I didn't fully and completely understand, especially regarding the two distinct battery connections. I didn't quite understand why the new Solax battery is widely advertised with up to 50 amps of charge and discharge power when the inverter itself can only handle a maximum of 30 amps through its dedicated connection. But I have since been able to clear up all these inconsistencies. I have information and facts in store for you in this video. If you watch this episode to the end, you'll have knowledge that I believe only very few people on this planet possess. This remarkable device can truly do everything you could possibly imagine, and for everything it offers, it has a truly sensational price for an entire system. If you want to install more than 20 kilowatt peak on your roof, you absolutely have to get this advanced hybrid inverter. There's simply no other way around it. By the way, if you want to support my work, the easiest way is with a channel membership. Share this video with your friends, but most importantly, if you're interested in what makes this inverter special, what its strengths are, and why I'm so excited about it, stay tuned until the end. As always, it's going to be exciting, and now use the seconds of the intro to scroll down, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. I'm Alex. Let's get started. The Solax X3 Ultra is a highly efficient hybrid inverter, available in various versions with impressive 15 kWh, 20 kWh, 25 kWh, and 30 kWh AC output power capabilities. What all these remarkable versions have in common are their consistent dimensions, which are approximately 70 by 53 centimeters. That means it is quite a significant bit larger than the X3 G4. And, as has already been mentioned, approximately 15 kilograms heavier. Furthermore, all versions of this particular system share the important characteristic that the peak power of the modules you can connect can be up to precisely twice the maximum AC output power. This is made possible by the fact that each individual MPPT tracker has two parallel electrical connections and can draw up to a maximum of 36 additional amps from the modules during continuous operation. How to properly and effectively use parallel connections on an MPPT tracker is something I thoroughly explained in a previous video. Additionally, the version with 25 or 30 key dollars of output power even has 3 dedicated MPPT trackers. This means that with the 25 and 30 kilowatt models, you can reliably connect up to 6 strings, providing greater flexibility and capacity. It's very important to make proper and efficient use of the option to connect 2 strings in parallel to one single MPPT tracker. I highly recommend checking out my previous videos on this specific topic again for more detailed information. The voltage operating range of the MPPT trackers on the Solax X3 Ultra inverter is actually precisely the same as on the X3 G4 hybrid inverter, namely 160 volts up to 950 volts. I would recommend that you aim to achieve at least 200 volts even under diffuse light conditions. And I would also strongly advise you not to use the full theoretical maximum of 950 volts, as this could be detrimental. The reason for this is the same as why I don't drive my Tesla at full throttle all the time. The device I have installed, as you might expect, is, as I mentioned before, the most powerful version with 30 kilowatts of output. This means that we have the significant option to output a substantial total of 30 kilowatts of power, either directly from the grid connection or from the essential EPS output, or indeed from both combined sources, and that's with a phase imbalance of up to 80%, which is quite considerable. Just like with the X3 G4 hybrid inverter, we can easily install this particular device with or without the essential EPS box for emergency and crucial backup power capability. However, you need to be fully aware that, unlike the X3 G4, the larger 25 kilowatt and 30 kilowatt models cannot pass through 1.5 times their AC output power, but only the precisely specified maximum AC output power. However, 25 or 30 kilodollars should definitely be sufficient in most cases. If you need more, I recommend, just like with the X3 G4, using the EPS box. With the EPS box, any additional power needed from the public grid during grid parallel operation is not routed through the inverter, but instead bypasses the inverter via one of the 2 contactors. Maybe also check out my earlier video on the EPS box regarding this topic. That was one of my first videos, back when I wasn't quite as confident as I am today. But the information presented in that earlier video is still entirely correct. Next, let's take a comprehensive look at the AC connections of the new Solax X3 Ultra inverter. Thankfully, we no longer have those terminal blocks, like on the X3 G4 hybrid inverter, where quite a few people probably let slip a few choice words when connecting the 6 square millimeter cables. Instead, as it should have been all along, we now have proper connectors that can even accommodate 16 square millimeter cables. However, always size the cable cross sections according to the specific conditions on site. Furthermore, with the Solax X3 Ultra, we have the convenient option to connect 2 separate battery strings to the device. Just like the X3 G4 hybrid inverter, it readily accepts 180 to 800 volts at its battery terminals and also offers a charging-discharging power of, in quotes, only 30 amps, but that's per individual connection. In this regard, I have to honestly admit that at first I didn't understand why the new Debati's 3.6 high voltage battery from Solax can handle 35 and even up to 50 amps of charging-discharging current for short periods. You can't really take full advantage of this current with any Solax X3 hybrid inverter over a single battery connection. More than 30 amps are neither being drawn from the battery nor being charged into the battery. That is definitely more than enough for this particular application. But it kept persistently bothering me, so I directly confronted my colleagues in China with this very important question, and they subsequently told me the following crucial information. It is indeed possible to connect one battery string to two battery inputs using the power cables, with both connections then operating in parallel. I then asked them, how is that supposed to work? Do I have to split the cable, or what, or how? To which they, with a smile on their faces, promised me that a box with the appropriate cables with two parallel connected plugs on one side is already practically on the plane and on its way to me. I think I might be the only one who has these cables. Did we really need it or not? Whether it truly makes sense to draw 35 to 50 amps of electrical current from the batteries is another important question. But with the Solax X3 Ultra, or rather, the excellent option to connect two separate battery strings, it's definitely possible, even with just one single battery string. Additionally, the new stackable Debates battery system allows for significantly higher voltages. The voltage range goes up to 750 volts. This means that, if you want, you can use the new battery to take full advantage of the maximum possible voltage at the battery connection of any Solax X3 hybrid inverter. And thus, on the one hand, you can connect more storage capacity, distributed across both connections, up to 93 kilowatt hours, and on top of that, by having a higher voltage multiplied by the maximum possible current of up to 50 amps, you naturally also increase the charging and discharging power accordingly. That's all for that. Now we can see the connections for the MPP trackers. As mentioned, there are 3 of them, each with 2 parallel inputs for our PV strings. What's new with the Solax X3 Ultra? We no longer have the usual BMS, CT meter, CAN1, CAN2 connections, and so on, but instead we now have not just one, but actually 2 communication ports, labeled COM1 and COM2. Behind each of these units are the dedicated slots for the RJ45 connectors, providing the essential connections for communication in a parallel installation setup, and also facilitating communication with the 2 possible battery strings or the BMS, which is specifically located behind the COM1 port. Additionally, at COM1, we have 2 independent, highly configurable RS4085 ports, which now allow us not only to control system-related components, as is customary, but also, in parallel, to communicate effectively with various third-party devices, such as the new and innovative Power Genius, using a separately and precisely configurable baud rate. Behind the COM2 board are the essential CT meter connection and the crucial connections for ripple control. Say, what that is, we'll take a closer look at in a follow-up video. And we have the digital inputs and respectively the digital outputs. These are the potential free contacts, comparable to bin 1 and 2 or bin 7 and 8 on the COM board of the Solax X3 G4 hybrid inverter. There are 2 things, however, that I find a bit unfortunate. They were simply left out or not considered on the Solax X3 Ultra. I don't know. The very first thing to consider is that with the Ultra model, you can no longer directly tap into the 12 volts to switch a relay. And for precisely the same reason, the initial generation Solax adapter box is no longer functional and does not work. Among other things, this is also because the potential free contact is no longer intended for directly switching a load, such as a hard material device. The potential free contact on the Solax X3 Ultra is now only used to switch a generator on or off. Hardly anyone knows that. If you want to operate a heat pump, an immersion heater, or anything else with surplus energy, you need either the 2nd generation Solax adapter box or the Nord Power Genius, because these do not communicate with the Solax X3 inverter via the potential free contact, but via Modbus. This isn't really a problem yet, because more and more people, referring to my video series on Home Assistant, are switching over and controlling their devices via smart home systems. But it was kind of practical to quickly and cleverly control the immersion heater for the boiler using a 12-volt relay that can handle, say, 20 amps through the dry contact settings. Unfortunately, that's no longer possible with the Ultra. So much for that. So who is the Solax Ultra actually interesting for? Basically, for anyone who wants to use the maximum output of the inverter even when there's little sunlight. This is thanks to the excellent option of precisely sizing the module peak power to 200% of the total AC output power, which offers advantages. And for anyone who wants to avoid the parallel installation of two G4 units. Because even for my 27 kW peak system, which I currently run with two X3 G4s installed in parallel, a single Ultra would have been more than sufficient. For anyone who truly needs significantly large storage capacities, even more than what is typically possible with a single battery string. However, this can also be effectively and efficiently solved with the G4 using the BMS parallel box, with which you can also easily and comprehensively double the overall capacity of the Ultra when combined with the D58 battery. If any of you are having trouble connecting the Solax X3 Ultra or with the pin assignment of the two COM boards, if you need to know exactly what goes where, or if you have issues with the settings, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be answering them. As I said, I claim to know pretty much everything about the Ultra. As mentioned, I have spent many hours working with it and received perfect training on the device from my colleagues in China. I hope I was able to give you a brief overview of what the Solax X3 Ultra is capable of. In the next video, I'll continue with my smart home series, specifically about Home Assistant. I will show you precisely how to integrate the Solax system into it, and also give you a truly detailed look at my smart home, showing you how I meticulously implemented all my automations. And we'll see each other again in the very next video.